not a democratic decision, meaning small d democracy, right?
Right.
I mean, you've got over 40% of he's like more than 9. Let's see, the margin right now, I think last I heard was 9%.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
It's very unusual for a majority of the American people, or for any, it's very unusual for more Americans to want to see a U.S. Supreme Court justice not confirmed than confirmed, but he's 9% below. The man is the most unpopular U.S. Supreme Court justice, Supreme Court nomination since Robert Bork.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
So, and Robert Bork was forced to withdraw.
Right.
But we're in a situation where the Republicans have the votes, and regardless of what effect it may have, they are, they're going to put this guy on the court because they expect him to support certain rulings in the U.S. Supreme Court on both issues about business as well as probably abortion and women's rights.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
So, but the point I'm making here is currently, I'm going to get something to drink here.
Mm-hmm.
The free California is not, he needs to hear me coughing. Currently, maybe 56% of the American people. Yeah, I did the math. Right now, the Democratic senators in the United States Senate represent about 56% of the population of the United States. That's already how much we are in the majority.
Mm-hmm.
When by 2040, that could be, like I said, 86% of the U.S. population could be represented by a Democratic senator.
Mm-hmm.
And I don't see how you can have a 50-50 split in the U.S. Senate, with these constant battles over individual seats like we have now, when 86% of the American people want to go one particular way.
Mm-hmm.
Or any of these states representing 86% of the people want to go one particular way. I don't see how the United States can hold together. I think that you asked me what do I believe the future would be. As I was saying, a Western Federation, an Atlantic Federation, somewhere in there you have to fit in Illinois and Minnesota, at least. Mm-hmm. Some kind of northern Midwest. What's left in the middle is the Great Plains and the southern and the southeast, Dixie. Mm-hmm. And those states, certainly if you remember it's the Atlantic states. It's so coastal, If you take the Atlantic coast, well, that flows in Georgia, right? Mm-hmm.
Right.
So what's left of the South? You think Alabama, Mississippi, even Kentucky, Tennessee? Let's talk a bit about Kentucky, because that's just one little number. I was wondering, why is it that people in Kentucky could be so tolerant of racism, and I mean anti-immigrant feelings? Mm-hmm. Why and the answer is pretty simple. In California, 27% of the population was born outside the USA. In Kentucky, it's 3%. Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Simply put, everybody in Kentucky basically was born in the USA. Right. So they just think of immigrants as being threats, of course, because they don't see very many of them.
Right.
The ones they do raise their eyebrows.
Uh-huh. Uh-huh.
Okay, so in a way, multiply that. Again, think about this 85-15 USA by 2040 that we're talking about, right? Mm-hmm. You're looking at a population that's 50%. Let's say 50% of the population. That might be around 60 million people, just to pick a number out. That's 60 million people who are really going to see the 85% of the people basically as freaking, as they won't understand them. We won't understand them. They don't understand us. Right. And I don't see how those two groups should remain one country.
No, we really shouldn't. For a lot of reasons, we need to be able to protect our own people and our own land from the pollutant United States. I mean that quite literally.
Well, pollution.
They're
Yes,
stealing. They're
that's one
stealing from
example.
us.
There is the fact that Trump says he wants to Trump administration say they want to reauthorize oil exploration and gas exploration off the coast of California.
They're stealing our people. They're stealing our immigrants, trying to stop us from protecting our immigrant population, and they're also taking a lot of taxes from us. We pay more per capita, I've heard, than in most other states, and
actually, let's be honest about that.
Yeah.
The state that really has something to complain about is Minnesota, because it's pretty clear that they're getting about 65 cents for every dollar in taxes they give out. For California, it's more like around 99%. So we're getting like 99 cents back for every dollar in taxes, but it comes down to the huge population of California.
Right.
And that actually comes around all the time.
Right.
The huge population of California not only it affects all kinds of computations. As an example, one we just mentioned, because of the huge population of California, that 1% difference is enough to make California the biggest donor to the United States government.
Right, and it's going to where the war machine mostly of the United States, and for the most part, Californians really don't like war. We like education.
Right. The military. Many, again, those southern states I mentioned, they pursue these very draconian policies, anti-union policies, which of course they try to attract businesses from states like New York and California with, low taxes, with little, with lack of safety for workers, and on and on and on.
Right.
It's, by the way, exactly the kind of policies which the founders opposed. Is this kind of competition and this kind of race to the bottom. They wouldn't have said it back then in the 18th century, but they talked about the tonnage. There's no duties against tonnage, and you get the feeling in there. It's this idea that states are not supposed to be rivals against each other.
Right, exactly right.
But under the Constitution, under the current situation we have, that's what's happening. And there's no doubt that things like, free college education for all our children, all our young people, or healthcare, universal healthcare.
Yeah,
these are things that we could have if we weren't spending a net $40 billion a year.
That's
giving
another
it
big
to
one.
the federal government.
And consider on that note what Jerry Brown has just said. He has just said that if the United States will not look into pollution using space satellites, since they have the resources for it, then California will. We will do that.
Absolutely. That's one thing that we actually have. He actually said that while he was announcing the fact that California has made a deal to, in fact, launch a pollution detecting satellite. California is, after all, one of the few states that actually has its own rocket program because we have SpaceX.
Mm-hmm. We're very progressive that way. We always have been. I know that Jerry Brown is not perfect. A lot of people call him Governor Moonbeam, but he has left us a surplus in the California budget, and he's been very good for California in a lot of ways.
Well, I wanted to remind me of that. I actually looked at that Governor Moonbeam thing, and the Governor Moonbeam thing actually became because in his previous term as governor, we're talking way back in the early 1980s, Governor Brown had advocated for a space program.
Right.
So,
and guess what? I mean, SpaceX is just one example of how California is leading the world, leading the nation, especially the USA. Absolutely.
It's technology.
Right.
Same thing with, of course, our biomedical business down here where I live, which happens to be down in San Diego area.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
And, of course, the computer business in San Jose area. And we'll have to just say, we'll leave it here, but we'll have to talk someday about, we will talk in the future about the importance of the unity of California, about spreading this technology-based economy across California, and the role of transportation in spreading that development. But that's certainly also on my mind and Marcus's mind. Marcus, by the way, we just mentioned briefly, those people don't even know about Marcus. Mm-hmm. Marcus is basically a policy analyst, and I'm an attorney. Mm-hmm. And so together, we feel that we really offer the kind of leadership that California would need.
I think so too.
To become shall we say, meet its destiny.
Right.
As a leader. Just imagine a leader of a 40, a union taking up 40% of the land area of the United States,
now,
quarter of the population, stretching from the Rio Grande River to the borders of Japan. That is a country. That's one of the greatest countries in the world.
Right. Now, Hannah, tell our listeners again, please, where and how they can find you online and find out more about you.
Yeah, easy. Search for me for Hannah Miyamoto. There's 2 H's on both ends. Mm-hmm. Hannah and Miyamoto, Miyamoto. That's 2 M's and no N's. Mm-hmm. Anyways, I'm easy to find. And as I said, Hannah Miyamoto for LG or Lieutenant Governor 2022, etc. Like I said, we're just starting. I want to say that I'm perfectly aware of the fact that there is a campaign already for Lieutenant Governor and Governor going on in 2018. I urge everyone to vote Democratic. And we have some, fantastic, but the idea is that 2022 is a long ways away. We have no idea what's going to happen in the future. And frankly, Senator Dianne Feinstein, if she were to run for re-election and win, she'd be 95 years old. Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. By that time. And we think that she may not run. We wish her well health, and she's made a great contribution to California and the rest. Mm-hmm. But frankly, she may want to do other things with her life.
Right.
She's made a great contribution to California. We think that there'll be some changes.
Yeah, I feel the same way about Ruth Bader Ginsburg. We all want her to keep on keeping on.
Yeah, we all certainly, yes, absolutely. Yeah. Just today, she's made some very strong, important statements about Kavanaugh and about Christine Ford.
Oh,
another Californian, yet another famous Californian in the news is Dr. Christine Ford, Christine Blasey Ford, right? So, but seriously, we think there's some changes, and no matter what, like I said, the whole idea is to run for office, to use that candidacy as a platform to talk about the important issues that affect California. Mm-hmm. And to talk about them in relation to the independence of California. Mm-hmm. And the independence of, as I said, a bunch of other states and territories, and what we could do together as a great republic, a great federation. And a federation that I believe would also be welcomed by
the UN, maybe?
The international community, basically by America's friends.
Yeah,
friends who, by the way, are sitting here pretty much appalled. Here's a good time to mention the fact that the President of the United States was openly received with laughter in the United Nations just yesterday. Was it yesterday or 2 days ago? This week, at least, right? Mm-hmm. Where they actually laughed at him when he said he'd been doing such a great job and he was such a successful president.
Right. And he's trying to tell us they were laughing with him.
Yeah, you're right, exactly. But they actually, and the point was, they certainly weren't. Germany, France, Great Britain were some of the states, some of the countries that were most appalled. Mm-hmm. Now, the whole point here, the leader of France was one of the speakers at the same event.
Mm-hmm.
And one of the things she talked about